Hi everyone, I'm Adam from Trade with Precision and welcome to IC Markets Market Commentary. Let's start off here by having a look at the dollar index. The reason I've outlined it with this rectangular box is so that you can see where it has been stuck for the last year since the tariffs are introduced. You can see we are still stuck within that range. We've just bounced off that middle support line and are working our way up to that $100 mark, which is a very historically significant price level. My expectation for now, at least, is that we will continue. We're just at a little bit of soft resistance right now, but if we break through this, I expect us to continue higher. You can actually see if we just zoom in that the most recent candle has actually been just an indecision candle, so very little happened this last week. All right, if we have a look at euro dollar here, you can see we're also stuck within that range, also coming back down to test a level of support within the range. And let's see if this support holds. If we break either way, if we bounce back up. So we could see that dollar ultimately weaken or strengthen, but it is closer to the top, and therefore I think it's inclined to go to the upside. Moving on to cable, you can see here it is also sitting at a historically recognized level of resistance at 1.3431. And again, still within this range. So really, we just have more of this indecision going on around this. The one I find interesting is when we have a look at the Australian dollar against the US dollar, we can see that largely this has actually been trending. This is a weekly time frame. You can see it's pulled back into the previous highs. And again, we have a bit of an indecision candle here. So here I'll be looking for a break above the high to see this trend continue. The moving average geometry is nice and bullish. The momentum is nice and bullish. And I'm looking to see if we ultimately continue this trend. If we have a look at dollar yen, this continues to flow to that 160 level, which we know that the Bank of Japan are keen to get price moving away from. So just be prepared for any kind of talk of intervention as we approach that level. But from this, we can at least see which way the market is wanting to go. So still looking nice and bullish on dollar yen. That is going to help strengthen that dollar a little bit. Let's have a look at gold. So gold is kind of very weak at the moment. We've got, well, not super weak. We have the moving average geometry heading lower. So the flow of price is slightly to the downside, but you can also see the buyers are stepping in here, trying to keep it above that 4-5 level. And so I expect that to continue for now, but there's just a subtle downward pressure. So not really expecting very strong trends from gold anytime soon. Silver as well, it's trying to sort of work its way up and also is just bobbing around. We can see lots of wicks top and bottom, which really just shows you that it is ranging very much during the day. And overall, just not really changing very much. If you go back, this is where we were, going back into May. The start of May. So this is a 4-hour time frame. Let's have a look at it from a daily perspective, and you can actually see for last week we really didn't do very much over that period. We're stuck principally between that $74 mark and $77 mark. Now let's move on to crude oil. So now I'm interested to see what happens when the market opens. The reason I say this is, first of all, we're forming a bit of a wedge shape here, which means that this market is likely to make a decision in the near future. And also, as it happens on social media, there are talks of some type of deal being made with Iran, and I'm curious to see if this would cause crude oil to gap up when the market opens. Would we see it gap up or gap down, see it dropping down towards these levels? Another thing, a little bit interesting, whether it means anything, but obviously a lot of people have been placing some very large, serious bets in this current administration, and there was a very large one placed last week, which betted that this would ultimately drop. So I am curious to see if that's how it plays out. Moving on and having a look at the Dow. So the Dow continues to push higher. You can see a lot of indecision exhaustion there, but it's still moved high. We've actually had a weak closing high, which is really a continuation of that bullishness. And if we have a look at the S&P as well, you can see although it has pulled back, it's showed up a little bit here with a possible level of future resistance. I'm just going to mark that now at 7,500. That daily trend is actually looking really good. We've got a nice little level of support here at that 7337 level. But the overall trend looks relatively healthy. The 250, 20, and 10, all nice bullish geometry. It's the weekly and the monthly that for me are the big concerns. We're just so overstretched that at some point we are going to be due for a correction. And if I have a look on the monthly, for example, just to show you, this is one of the single biggest sort of monthly candles I've ever seen. And it's just a big move. So the market is starting to head up at a more aggressive angle and is starting to sort of 10 parabolic. It's much more obvious when you have a look at it on the NASDAQ. If you go across and have a look at the monthly here, you can see that this angular momentum is starting to shift and is becoming more and more aggressive, which is why we say parabolic. It's likely to continue shooting higher. My concern is that when that correction does happen, parabolic corrections can be quite strong. We're not there yet. We're still closing relatively strong near the bars, the weekly bar as well, starting to slow down a little bit over here. And yes, we are due for a correction. We haven't started that yet, which is really just a sign of the bullishness. The bulls are still here trying to push it higher, but they are running out of steam. So again, this week, same as last week, I'm going to be looking for a break of the lows here to see if perhaps we do start that swing high and start that correction down. But you can see here, although we just dipped below the low, we really didn't go any higher. We also didn't go any lower, so it is slowing down a little bit. If we have a look at the FTSE, this has also got a bit of a wedge pattern for me here, which I find quite interesting as well. So it would appear as though the FTSE is waiting for some clarity from the rest of the markets there before it decides which way to go. And then finally, if we just have a look at Euro stocks, which is still stuck in a range, but overall looking more bullish than bearish, again, waiting for this to break out. So it's not an accident that we are seeing a couple of wedge patterns as well as rectangular sort of consolidation patterns in the market. The markets are tentatively waiting for further clarity. There's so much going on in the world right now. They're waiting for a little bit of potential geopolitical uncertainty to kind of sort itself out, or even whether situation's going to escalate or de-escalate. And finally, just wrapping up with Bitcoin, we can see that it has broken out of this tighter range it had. It's pulled back a little bit of a slightly bullish bar over here on the weekly. And really what I'd like to see is if this level holds for support. So we've got a little bit of an uptrend there. I'd like to see if this holds. And otherwise, not looking too bad. We had a very nice bullish candle that formed in the last couple of days here. I'd like to see if we get some follow through on that and see if we ultimately work our way back up. But there's some resistance in this, just sitting at around that 82,000 level. And again, from a weekly perspective, we have a nice little bit of an uptrend. So looking to see if we do find some support here and then produce a swing low in the coming week and ultimately head higher. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much. Have a great week.